A two-judge bench of the Supreme Court had struck down a Delhi High Court order of 2009 which decriminalized gay sex, Section 377, which pertains to that. The Supreme Court is now having second thoughts. The Apex Court has agreed to take a fresh look at its own 2013 ruling, which set aside a Delhi High Court order that decriminalized homosexuality. A three-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice Deepak Mishra said it would reconsider and examine the validity of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. This came as the bench was hearing a fresh plea that was filed in 2016 by Navtej Singh Johar. The plea seeks to declare Section 377 unconstitutional. Now, appearing for Johar, senior advocate Arvind Dattar argued that consenting adults cannot be jailed for their sexual preferences. The plea also argued that members of the gay community were living in constant fear of the police. Arvind Dattar also referred to a recent 9-judge bench judgment which has made privacy a fundamental right, and that is significant, arguing that the right to choose a sexual partner was a fundamental right as well. Remember, while delivering the judgment on the privacy issue, the Supreme Court had ruled that protection of sexual orientation is at the very core of fundamental rights. The court had also noted that sexual orientation is an essential attribute of privacy and that discrimination against an individual on the basis of sexual orientation was deeply offensive to the dignity and self-worth of that individual. So there is now a ray of hope for the gay community in India. The government has not spelt out its position clearly on the issue just yet. Remember, in 2014, Kiran Rijiju, who was then the Minister of State for Home, had told the Lok Sabha that since the matter was sub judice, a decision could be taken only after the Supreme Court gave its judgment. Speaking of the Lok Sabha, Congress MP Shashi Tharoor had tried to introduce a private member's bill to decriminalize homosexuality, not once but twice. And the Lok Sabha voted against the introduction on the bill on both occasions. Well, to take this conversation forward, I'm joined by gay rights activist Apsara Reddy, BJP spokesperson Shaina NC, Sushmita Dev of the Congress Party, senior Supreme Court Advocate Mahesh Jethmalani, and AP Prejish, Chief Coordinator of Think Right. But before we get to our guests, here are some reactions that have come in today after the Supreme Court decided to review its own judgment on Section 377.
The Supreme Court had said that some things come within the realm of privacy, including choices in food and sexuality. Therefore, the two-judge judgment in Kaushal, which had upheld Section 377 of the IPC, was logically in question.
In 2013, हमारी जो ह्यूमन राइट्स की जो उल्लंघन हुई है, उसके बारे में फिर से एक और बार सोचना सबसे बड़ी बात है. एंड आई एम रियली वेरी होपफुल कि अब जाके कुछ अच्छा डिसीजन और निर्णय लेंगी भारत सरकार.
It's very good that the Supreme Court has agreed to the petition to re-examine the earlier judgment, which was completely wrong in our view, because 377 should have no place in the constitution of a democratic country like India. And we want it to be struck down. The CPM has always been against the criminalization of same-sex relations.
So as long as they don't celebrate it, as long as they don't flaunt it, as long as they don't create gay bars to select partners for that, in their privacy, what they do, nobody can invade. But if you flaunt it, it has to be punished, and therefore there has to be criminal law, which is Section 377.
Everybody should get equal rights, and they should live freely, fairly, and it is a good decision, and I welcome this.
Well, reactions there coming in. The last one was from the Congress Party. Mallikarjun Kharge saying that the Congress Party welcomes the fact that the Supreme Court has now decided to review its earlier order. Mahesh Jethmalani, if I could come to you and quote to you what Supreme Court Advocate Harish Salve has said. He says Section 377 is dead after the 9-judge bench. Only the funeral rights of Section 377 remain. And here's why. Because in that landmark judgment of August of 2017, the Supreme Court held that sexual orientation is an essential attribute of privacy. It said that right to privacy and the protection of sexual orientation lie at the core of the fundamental rights guaranteed by Articles 14, 15 and 21 of the Constitution. So Mahesh Jethmalani, do you believe, as does Harish Salve, that 377 is dead post that 9-judge bench order on privacy?
Well, I believe that 377 lies in a coffin, but somebody has to still shut the lid. There is no doubt that the Constitution bench on the right to privacy has made a very strong allusion to sexual preference being a facet of the right to privacy under Article 21. But there's one aspect which the 2-judge bench in 2013 also enunciated, and that was that, listen, as far as we are concerned, this is not discriminatory against any particular segment. This doesn't punish any particular class of people, 377, but what it does is it punishes certain acts, i.e. carnal acts against the law of nature. Now, that argument has to be given a death blow by any bench that's reviewing it, because that you'll have to use the right of privacy argument to overcome that. Carnal acts against the order of nature, which is the wording of 377, that things like sodomy and things like oral sex are not against the laws of nature. It's a matter of personal sexual choice, so long as it's conducted within the confines and privacy of a bedroom.
All right, Shaina NC, let me come across to you. As we just heard there from Mahesh Jethmalani, that may not necessarily be dead. It's in a coffin. The question is, are you going to drive the final nail into the coffin, Shaina NC? And I ask you this because we're not very clear about the position that the BJP intends to take on this particular matter. As we pointed out at the start of the program, Kiran Rijiju had told the Lok Sabha that since the matter was sub judice, the government would decide on its course of action after the Supreme Court's verdict. When Shashi Tharoor has tried to bring in a private member's bill to address the decriminalisation of gay sex, the Lok Sabha has voted against the introduction. You're in majority in the Lok Sabha. What is the position of the BJP, Shaina NC? Will you ensure that Section 377 is in fact dead or not?
Firstly, let me please say at the outset that my opinion is entirely my personal opinion as a young leader in this country. It is not the official viewpoint of the Bharatiya Janata Party. I think that decriminalization, we're all on the same page that it has to be done away with, because whether it's the LGBT community or, for that matter, even people who are in different relationships, they can't live in the fear of the police. So that is one. Now, since this matter had been sub judice, I think the official stand of the party, which Mr. Arun Jaitley very eloquently put forth, where he said that yes, we live in changing times where we may not agree necessarily in a conservative society on homosexuality, lesbian relationships, etc. But clearly they are not criminals. So that, I think, needs to be a humane approach, because if we have that, then we will see the police also understand that there needs to be a sensitivity. But coming to what Mr. Subramaniam Swamy said, I think what he said is true. That is India ready really for gay bars and gay lesbian marriages, etc.? The honest truth is no. Because when you had Shashi Tharoor even try to bring up this debate in Parliament.
No, but Shaina NC,
let me just
what
finish
is the point that you're making? I mean, if you're talking about it, sure.
The point I'm making is that if we are even the first step is discussion, deliberation in Parliament, which has not even happened. A private member's bill, even their own party, that is the Congress party that is giving these great sound bites, have not either allowed it. Their own parties have not. So first step, I feel, is that we need to have an open debate. We need to discuss and we need to treat it as an area of priority rather than just shoving it below the carpet and constantly dealing with it in a very, very hypocritical manner. Does the LGBT community exist in India? Obviously it does. But first, at least accept that we need to decriminalize and then go into the nitty-gritties of how we address the entire issue. So I think first and foremost, the fear of the police needs to be done away with, because criminality on the basis of just two people in their private home space is really not the business of the government. So that, I think, is basically the outline.
So, Shaina, you know, since you caveated your statement saying that these were your personal views, I don't know, is this the view of the Bharatiya Janata Party then as well? When you talk about Mr. Jethmalani saying that there must be a humane approach and that morality must change with the times, then what is the approach, what is the position that your party is going to take on this matter?
Well, in the days to come, we will know, when there is a discussion which is healthy in nature in Parliament, what the viewpoint of every political party is. As of now, we have to just respect what the Honourable Court has said.
We just heard from the Congress Party, they said that they welcome it.
We need to come to terms. We need to come to terms that yes, this community does exist. It needs to exist without any type of fear. And I think that the proposal to decriminalize homosexuality is a foregone which everyone is on the same page for.
All right, so you're saying that it's a foregone conclusion that decriminalization of gay sex should now be the need of the hour. AP Prejish, Chief Coordinator of Think Right, also with us. Mr. Prejish, let me ask you now, you've just heard a sort of caveated position that's been taken by the BJP, but the Supreme Court very clearly seems to suggest today, as well in its previous orders, that Section 377, which pertains to criminalizing gay sex, you know, that it is time now for that to be put to rest. Your first reaction?
The thing is, first of all, I would like to say that I am just giving this message to the entire panel, because I am not against this LGBT concept of gay rights or anything. But coming to the Democratic Republic of India, particularly this nation, we have to focus on the issues which we are having through this LGBT community, because an anarchist methodology is there within the communities of this nation. But coming to European countries, coming to US, they are more focusing on their education, their career, etc. So first, we need to address this particular situation. In the LGBT issue in India, we need to create this particular mindset. We can have this kind of topics in this nation, but the mindset of majority class, the major class, when we go through the rural sector, some states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Orissa, people are not officially oriented about LGBT. They think that this is awkward, this is strange, this is alien. So first we need to change this mindset. Otherwise, people will say against this LGBT community or concept. So proper education and career orientation is very important. First we have to bring this.
No, I don't think anybody's...
Another aspect.
No, I don't think anybody argues with the fact that you need to address the information deficit, you need to educate people, you need to create awareness. But the fact of the matter is that it starts perhaps with decriminalizing something which causes fear, which causes intimidation. Yeah.
Come again?
No, just a second. Let me go across to Sushmita Dev of the Congress Party. Sushmita Dev, you know, we just heard there from Shaina NC saying that the Congress Party is also confused about its position. Sushmita Dev, you have tweeted saying that you welcome the fact that the Supreme Court is going to review its 2013 order on criminalizing gay sex. What is going to be the Congress Party's official position? I don't want to hear from you in your personal capacity, etc., which is the line that Shaina was trying to take. Sushmita Dev, what is the Congress Party's position on this?
See, as far as we are concerned, the legal position after right to the judgment on right to privacy, that has taken the sting out of 377. And we have said, and not just me, but Kharge ji is on record saying that gender equality has to be, you see the larger picture when it comes to gender equality. And when there is a consensual sex between two individuals, irrespective of their sex, there's no reason why it should be criminalized. And that is our view. We are on record saying it not once but many times.
So if this, like Shaina NC, she says that the Congress party itself has not allowed a discussion on this matter in Parliament. You know, as parliamentarians now, if triple talaq was an issue, Shaina NC, that the BJP brought to Parliament, is this now going to be an issue that political parties will bring to Parliament? Shaina?
One second. I think
the honest truth is you cannot compare triple talaq to the LGBT community.
No, I addressed that issue with Shaina, that Shashi Tharoor did bring up the private members' bill on this. Yeah, go ahead, Shaina.
Yeah.
You cannot equate triple talaq, which literally touches the lives of almost 50% of women, because that is a battle for gender equality and absolute respect in a situation where you have a woman almost treated as a commodity. And sometimes the unfortunate truth is that only if there is fear of law can you have perpetrators of crime be put behind bars. And the 3 cases that have been brought to light in the recent past in Uttar Pradesh are testimony to it. So I don't think this is something you can compare.
Why would this
now,
be different?
The LGBT
why would this be different,
Shaina NC?
Because
Very minority.
377, and I'll read out.
I'll tell you.
I'll read out to you what the court has said.
I'll tell you.
I'll read out to you what the court has said. Section 377 was held to be a denial of the dignity of an individual, and to criminalize his or her core identity solely on account of sexuality would be a violation of Article 21. So how is it any different?
The honest truth is that are we hypocritical as a country? Do we believe in traditional norms and institutions such as marriage? Do we believe in absolute, cultural heritage and a great society which we cherish generation after generation? And that is true. It is something that every Indian looks forward to and believes that, marriage is something which is the way to procreate, and it is an institution that needs to be protected. Now, moment you keep accepting this so-called queer, or if you want to call it the LGBT parades that you have been seeing, it is something that we have to be ready to even discuss. And to be ready to discuss, the first step is first to decriminalize, so that what they do in the private space is extremely clear. However, I think that in the days to come, Parliament needs to have a healthy debate, and then can we go ahead.
Okay, you're saying Parliament needs to have a healthy debate.
In what I'm saying. Really I'm saying that we are a conservative society.
Okay.
Is there a hypocrisy? Yes, there is. I can't be more clear than that. Are we ready to discuss and deliberate and treat it as a priority issue? You cannot equate a triple talaq, which touches the lives of 50% of Indian women, vis-a-vis an issue which is nascent, which is new, and which is a concept which is still queer.
Pun intended, I would imagine. Apsara, Reddy, let me come to you on the comments that we just heard there from the BJP spokesperson, Shaina NC. Yes, there is a need for discussion and debate. Yes, it's okay for the act itself to be decriminalized, is her personal opinion. Whether that will be the opinion of the BJP and the government, we don't know yet. That is a position that will be firmed up shortly, is what we're given to understand. But how do you react to the commentary that you've heard today, Apsara Reddy? And of course, you've been involved with this battle for a long time now.
As the country's first transgender national spokesperson in a party that's the 3rd largest in Parliament, I must say India and our society has come a long way. I don't think Shaina NC really taps into the pulse of the majority of Indians who are ready for change, who are marching towards progress, and who don't want people to suffer in silence or suffer abuse or discrimination. I think denial of self is the worst kind of abuse. I think we need to celebrate human rights and celebrate self. And I think the 3-judge bench has put the step in the right direction. I think the Prime Minister is really serious about putting India on the global map as a democracy.
Prejish, just 1 second.
Can I finish before you have the counter argument? I think I should finish my argument.
Yes, go ahead.
I think I should finish my argument before somebody counters us first. Yes, thank you. I think the Prime Minister should strengthen the hands and hearts of millions of LGBT individuals who've suffered in silence, who've suffered abuse, who've suffered ostracization, and simple consensual sexual freedom between two consenting adults should not be legislated against, should not be policed against. I think we need to live in a free and fair society where everybody is able to express love of a simple kind. And when we have religious organizations where the Pope is questioning some of his counterparts for pedophilia, when we have certain religions which promote multiple marriages, when we have Hindu ashram, so many babas raping women, why are we questioning simplistic love between two people?
Okay, Prejish, now you have your chance to respond to the points made there by Apsara Reddy.
We are living in a nation where we are having a complex multi-party system. There are cultural diversities. Even when we are having any issues in certain ashrams, we can't focus the Indian philosophy is anti against LGBT, anything like that. The thing is, we have an anarchist mindset regarding the majority of this particular community. This we have to accept. Why people are saying that we have to criminalize this LGBT thing? Mainly because an anarchist approach is there in the nation. So you have to address it. If we have a different graph of achievement...
What do you mean by this? Who? Anarchist approach? I'm not clear about what is the point that you're trying to make.
Yeah. Many informal communities are there in this particular nation. We are not having a proper centers for their orientation. If a person is gay, where he has to go? There are certain informal organizations. First, you have to raise certain centers from official centers which is recognized by the government. This is very important. First, the basement, the primary stage, the foundation part is very important, which we don't have in this nation. So if you bring that particular alternatives, then we can discuss.
I agree. 1 second. Can I come in?
Yes, Apsara. Go ahead. Respond.
I agree, we need support systems, we need care centers, we need workshops for mainstreaming. But to say, you need help because you're not normal, I think is absurd. I don't think that argument should be entertained. I think we're an articulate, sensible talent pool who contribute to the country, to the economy. I don't think to say, oh, you have a problem, so visit a certain center. I don't think that's the way forward. Yes, to have support systems against communities which are micro-communities which have suffered discrimination. Yes, mainstream them, you need to Just a second. Let's not talk over each other. Sensitization is very different from saying you're abnormal.
Okay.
Sure. Mr. Jethmalani, I know you have to leave, so let me get you to now give us a perspective on what happens from here on and what will be the legal arguments that we will have to contend with as the Supreme Court now takes up this matter afresh.
Well, Shereen, there should be really no confusion on this matter whatsoever. I mean, everybody talks about decriminalization. Who criminalized it in the first place? Section 377 was brought up the statute books by Lord Macaulay, who then ruled this country, right? Ever since independence, if anybody wants to decriminalize it, it had to be the parliament of this country. Nobody else can do it, right? The Supreme Court can only now intervene. The Supreme Court is almost forced to intervene. If any parliament realized that this is an absolute absurd law right now, and we've had governments in recent times who've had every opportunity to do this, but they still haven't struck down 377. It now is only left to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court can't legislate. What it'll have to do is, it'll have to find on the principle of constitutionality. Decriminalization, Parliament's job. But striking down a law on the ground that it offends the Constitution is the court's business. So finally, what the government refuses to do, unfortunately, in spite of constitutional values, is left to the Supreme Court as usual. So that's why the Supreme Court is having a re-look at this. It is very unfortunate, but really the government should now start, taking the lead. It is the government which must take the lead in the enforcement of constitutional values, unless it doesn't agree with those constitutional values.
Shaina NC, and that's exactly the point that I was trying to make at the start of the program to elicit a clear response from you. As Mahesh Jethmalani is saying, it is now the job of the government to bring about a legislation. It is the job of the government to take the lead in this matter. Is that a position that your government will take?
Well, I'm sure that in the days to come, you will have an official statement as to what the party stand is. But yes, an 18th century archaic law needs to be done away with, and that we're all aware of. And now with the court's verdicts today, I'm sure we're heading in that direction. However, I think that, rather than sitting on judgment as to whether the LGBT community needs to be encouraged or discouraged, that's another issue. Awareness campaign, that's another issue. The first step starts when we accept that there can be people of different mindsets who don't think of traditional Indian marriage as their only option, and they are not criminals for thinking so.
Absolutely. Sushmita Dev, it was Shashi Tharoor, the Congress party, that attempted to bring a private member's bill on this issue. Is the Congress now going to gather momentum, fresh momentum, in light of what we've seen from the Supreme Court today? Are you going to make this a priority for you? I mean, you talk about addressing issues that are relevant to a younger India. Is this going to be an issue that you will give priority to?
No, first of all, we are not in government, so what does it mean when you say we'll give it priority? But yes, if the bill is brought to the parliament, we'll definitely look at the contents, and hopefully it won't be regressive like the transgender bill is, which flies in the face of the Nalsa case. So when it comes to this government, we want to see the contents of the bill, but if it is decriminalized, we will support it.
Yeah. You will support it. That's an unequivocal yes there from the Congress party. I'll give final comments to each of my panelists. Apsara Reddy, let me start by asking you, we now have to wait for what the Supreme Court says, and we also have to wait to see what parliamentarians decide to do. I would imagine that the response will be, let the Supreme Court take a call on this, and then we'll decide on which way the legislation will proceed. Let me leave you with the final comment on this matter, Apsara Reddy. What is it that you would like to see from here on?
As a transgender woman myself who's seen so many upheavals, I think India is moving in the right direction. Majority of Indian people are willing to accept and also celebrate difference and the diversity that different communities add to society, the color, the flavor, the texture, and the intellect. So I really feel parliamentarians should also come on board and do away with an archaic law. It's my appeal to all parliamentarians across the board that to legislate for human rights, to look into the hearts and souls of the people of the LGBT community and not look at it as a devious behavior.
All right, appeal to parliamentarians and to all lawmakers who might be listening to this program. That's the message there from Apsara Reddy. Apsara Reddy, Mahesh Jethmalani, Shaina NC, Sushmita Dev and AP Prejish. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18 as we discuss the implications of the Supreme Court deciding to review a 2013 order that struck down a Delhi High Court order that had decriminalized gay sex. We will, of course, keep you updated on the many developments that are expected on this story. But for now, from all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.